Good morning. Um, uh, Welcome to Best Practices Meet, and every year, and this is all you know, the 15th year of Best Practices Meet, and also yesterday we have seen that DSCI completed its 15th year. So uh, every time such kind of event, be it Best Practice Meet or Financial Security Conclave that we do in Mumbai, or annual Information Security Summit that we do in Delhi. So we try to do these breakfast meets which on very offbeat different topics basically. Um, some years back, I did this topic on data and relation of data to the human, and there's some concept of how things are getting captured about us, right? And there is Homo Deus, some of you must be probably had read that book basically, which talks about human is increasingly going to become God. But one thing which is also now coming is like the way the data is captured. So until now, the data was captured more like all that thing you have been doing, these applications are now planetary in nature. So all the social media application, internet application, these applications are capturing the information. So until now, what we type, what we feed, what we browse, what we touch basically, increasingly when emojis started coming in, face recognition started coming in, how you feel, how you think about a particular thing, the voice coming in, what we say. So all of those things that we have been doing, including our expressions, have started getting captured basically, right? And there are a lot of those way of collecting data got evolved, right? All of these social media application, all of us like emojis, right? And these emojis has been expressions of human to a particular situation basically. And there are n number of emojis came because n number of way humans express themselves, right? Even if you're smiling, there are almost 8, 9 different, 10 different types of emojis are there to express your smiling because there's a nuances of how you smile basically, right? So if you are angry, if you are happy, and then, so all this information about, uh, and then more importantly, the biometrics which come and the facial recognition which came. So all this information start getting captured and start getting into some kind of a store, which is now store is at a planetary level. The planetary level storage is coming. People started experimenting on that. And that experimentation, in a way, started feeding to those ideas, basically. So there are billions of nodes through which you can understand that data, right? And that's what the first ChatGPT came, ChatGPT 3 came, ChatGPT 4 is now talking about, where it talks about billions of nodes on which all the data available can be seen. And people had been, in our mythological philosophy, we always talk about ki aham brahmasmi. So I myself is Brahma. Means like there are so many complex things that human body and human consciousness basically is involved. So entire universe is within me basically, right? That's what we talk about. And then increasingly we are trying to understand that universe basically, right? Until now, the actions which can be captured, which can be captured by what you feed, which can be captured by photographing you, capturing your videos. Now I talked about capturing the emotions, and all that is now the cloud computing, especially where it has come, and especially the planetary level applications like Facebook and YouTube and all those applications came. So it was easy for you to now have a planetary level network and application, and you can use that applications to create those ideas, and those ideas can then make people to come on your platform, engage, exchange, express. All of those started happening, and then the data started coming in, and big data, GBs of data basically started coming in, and then we started applying these different nodes. And people say that ChatGPT 4, there's billions of nodes, and now next version it will have billions of or trillions of a kind of nodes through which we try to understand the world basically, right? So understanding the world and the truth about the world is very urge of the humanity, right? We progress because of that, right? So this urge of understanding the nature better, understanding the world better. So because of that, we had come to this level. And now with competing capability, so this search and urge is now accelerating basically, right? And accelerating at a planetary level basically, right? We also talked about in our philosophical thing the Brahmadhan. Some people used to have Brahmadhan, that they will have all the information, all the kind of analysis. They could able to relate that. They could able to create a wisdom, and they could have global wisdom available to them basically, right? And until now it was more information. Then people started about more knowledge. Then now it's question of wisdom basically, right? We are asking the question and it's throwing the answer basically, right? So this wisdom is in our culture, we used to say Brahmadhan basically, and that Brahmadhan is available to all of us now. So it's accessible to all of us in our own language, very simple English language, or now it will be available to even Hindi, Marathi, whatever language that you speak basically, because you can put a question, it can translate, and it can throw the answer basically, right? So this is how everybody of us are getting that access to that Brahmadhan. Everybody would become a Brahmadhyani, right? But there is a difference between how machine and human works basically, right? And there are a lot of differences basically, but we'll start talking about that. But I just wanted you to initially reflect on what we would like to cover as a part of today's discussion, right? So why consciousness and AI is now people talking, right? Anybody with this topic itself, we thought about what is really happening, why people are asking these questions. Would there be any relation? Could AI create a human consciousness basically, right? So what comes to your mind with this? Anybody? Yeah.
Flavor added to it. So that is where I think we may have to focus and ensure that the neutrality is maintained.
Yeah, so don't talk about security privacy, because here
No,
we are talking
not
about
security.
consciousness
It's about the
and
consciousness.
yeah.
Right? So it's about the content,
Yeah.
not anything else.
Yeah.
From a content perspective, it is very important that the content, whatever we are going to get, is trustable and it's able to relate to the current day requirement. So that is where this consciousness will be of a useful item to connect the dots.
Yeah. Okay. So, so this data which is there, and we in the throughout the day we'll talk about trustworthiness of AI. There's session, there's one small interaction also in the roundtable is also happening on that. We'll definitely discuss about security, privacy, ethics, trust. But I'm worried about our understanding about consciousness and why it is related to the AI.
Okay, so what I can relate is, seeing the current world which is moving towards AI and all, and when I talk about consciousness, it means that whatever the thought process we have, and if the thought process is wrong, and if it is fed into AI can start taking some inverse actions. So in that way, we need to be very conscious what type of data we are feeding in, because our current thought process will make the actions in future. So that is my thought process for it.
Yeah, so you're saying that we need to be conscious about what AI we are building and how we are using it basically. So that's okay.
So what I was saying, the concept of awareness, which is there in humans, is missing in the mission. And the other thing is the emotion, which is really required to make certain decisions and judgment, is again missing. So that is also part of consciousness. And also taking things out to the context. Like if I say, I walk in a snail pace, right? Maybe the machine would really take the literal meaning than what it is intended until we feed. But there are a lot of circumstances in life that based on the situation, the meaning of certain things will differ. That awareness and consciousness is lacking in the machine, and it would take time to build.
This is
that.
very three important things she's saying. One is is it self-aware? Second part is whether it can be very contextual to that particular situation. And third, I think second part to talk about is
Awareness
yeah, uh, and can it can it have emotions? So that's also important part. Emotions, context, and self-awareness, basically, right? Yeah. 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 Yeah, but many times decision that we take, we don't know the process of decision.
Generally,
right?
we are taught,
Yeah.
please take a conscious decision. It is not an informed decision. The difference between the two is this.
Yeah. So there are, what you are saying is, and this is also very important context here, is most of our decision and reactions and emotions are intuitive in nature. There's a system one thinking. System one thinking is very reactive, intuitive. Something trigger in the brain, and because of that, we react to a particular situation, particular way, basically, right? So the system one thinking.
I just want to add one thing. If you look into AI, it's more about neural network, right?
Yeah.
All the data that is available in the internet, based on that, it is making the connection and giving you the information. If you look at our mind, right, it is also based on the neural network. When the child grows, right, it feeds the information to them, and based on that, it started building its own conscious. So as of now, yes, it is in a very premature state that it can make a conscious decision, but over a period of time, I'm assuming that the same consciousness will come in the future.
Yeah, and that is what the intent and context of this session, that one of the important thing is this neural network, probably or neural circuitry that we have, right? So they say the brain has three things basically. One is you can express based on material information perspective, it's chemical. So you must have read somewhere that a particular person is aggressive because some chemical flows in his brain, and that's why he's behaving a particular way. So there is a chemical, material way of understanding the brain, right? Second is the circuitry. There is some melatonin flows and the circuitry, the understanding of a brain, basically. And third is these neurons, basically, right? And people are already talking about neuromorphic computing, basically, which is stem from this deep learning. And deep learning models, like, as I talked about, there are n number of things that we had gone through. As a human, there are some definitely DNA that follows, but the n number of things that gone through, and somehow, some situation comes and we react. And that reaction happens based on what something happened in the brain, basically. More we understand the brain, more we are able to really replicate the brain. But the way things are now evolving, basically. So people have started now saying this, can we have the future where this machine will create its own consciousness, basically. It will be conscious in nature. It will be self-aware. Because emotion is at the end of the day, is multiple situation, multiple people have reacted to that multiple situation, right? And if there are ways to capture your emotions, and way to capture which is situation and that situation, what kind of emotion that you express, it may emulate your emotions as well, right? So would there be a situation where machine will start behaving as a conscious being? I'm not saying human being, a conscious animal or conscious anything, basically, right? So those possibilities are now coming. May not be, I'm not saying it's happening now or 2 years, 10 years or 15 years, but yeah, to certain extent it is happening, basically, right? So years back I did a session on a data Atma, right? So we say that our soul is independent of our body. Now increasingly our data is becoming independent of us. We are leaving that data, right? The applications are capturing that data, and that is independent of us getting stored somewhere, right? And after me, somebody can make a call to my data and check whether in this situation how would I reacted basically, right? So I remain with my data. I may not remain, but my data remains basically. My soul remains as the data, right? So, there could be a possibility where you can recreate many situations by just looking at your data. If there is a data of each and every situation that I had gone through, each and everything that I do, each and every thinking that I have, emotions I have, it can be captured. Somebody can throw that, or somebody can throw a situation, and that situation basically it can tell that in this particular situation I would have reacted like this basically. So such possibility are people talking about, because two things are happening. One is the progress the machine is making. Another is the progress that we are doing in biotechnology as well. Progress we are doing in brain research as well. There is a big center in industrial science. G. Gopal Krishna, which is one of the founder of Infosys, he's funded a research in brain research, and across the globe there are a lot of brain research which is happening, which is throwing a lot of those possibilities. And I was one of the NASA chief advisor on artificial intelligence. We got him to come to one of the G20 conference. I know him for last 1 year. He wrote this book, Between the Brains. So he talked about how these different streams are now progressing enough to take us to the near reality, basically. You talk about truth and reality. Somebody talk about truth and reality, right? So all of us are trying to understand the reality through our truth. So this world has its own truth, right? And all of us are trying to understand the larger reality and trying to expand our truth so that we understand the reality much better and better, basically, day by day. And at the infinity time, we'll be able to understand the real truth. So we all will get enlightened, basically, right? But this process of understanding the reality is now accelerating quite significantly, right? We are accelerating that process because 2-3 things, basically. One is the learning for all of us. We all learn individually. Human learns individually, right? The biological brains learn individually. And that is very important to know, because some of the important, interesting questions that people have thrown recently, right? You may have automated vehicle, and automated vehicle is going on the street, and when there is a situation like there is a dog and there is a human and there is a pole, what it will hit. So how you take a decision, basically. And people are saying the machine may commit a decision where it will probably kill a person. But it will kill person once. And it will learn that this is not something I should be doing next time, right? And next time it will not do the same mistake, where human can make same mistake again and again, basically. But another important thing between human and machine is, one machine learns means every machine learns. So their learning is connected learning, collective learning. One learns means everybody learns, where we all learn individually. And that's why people have started now talking about the possibility, would it be a state, or will it be an age where machine will be much more intelligent than human, basically, right? Yeah, so maybe there is a singularity. Anybody knows concept of singularity? So there is a general intelligence. So probably in some area, in AI there are 3-4 AIs, right? One is narrow intelligence. Currently we are at narrow intelligence. There's a chat GPT coming in. We are probably going to general intelligence, where average human, it is becoming near, at least some areas, not every area, but some area, it is becoming near to human. General intelligence will be probably achieved in some time. There is also super intelligence. People talk about it will go much beyond human as well. But there will be an age where it's called a singularityism, basically. So it will be only singular species, basically, which will be so brainful, no we can come close to that, basically. So there is Sam Harris, which try to look at it, the day by day that we are progressing, there may be a possibility of a singular species which is so brainy, which probably would be much more intelligent than the human brains are basically. So so this is a discussion that in a lot of things. So AI is triggering a lot of this philosophical discussion, and a lot of people had in recent time visiting again those basic fundamental philosophy. One, because of quantum. All of you know why people are visiting quantum, because quantum mechanics and phenomena itself is too much tied up with the philosophy, right? So observation is so important that it changes the state, and anything you observe, and philosophy talks about anything happens. If nobody has seen, that has not happened basically. Philosophy is, if something has to happen, somebody has to see that basically. And quantum, we see that seeing is changing the state basically, right? So people are now revisiting because of, to certain extent, quantum, but more importantly because of AI, people are really revisiting the basic concepts of philosophy basically. But now, if you have to really counter, human will, or probably AI will best to take over of a human, how would you counter it basically? Means one question is it will take over, is one assumption, but you have to really counter. What are those things that you can use to counter कि नहीं होगा ऐसे? Anybody? Why it will not happen? Yeah.
It will not have its own individual creations of the data, but humans has the ability to create its own data. So that's the biggest difference that I see between a machine and a human. So even in the future, machines may be very, very intelligent. They will be able to guess a lot of things, but matching to the intelligence of a human is going to be very, very difficult.
So you are saying the creation is difficult for a machine to achieve, but entire ChatGPT is creation, right?
No, the ChatGPT is all about the existing data and correlating the information and giving you the similar information in the other form. It's not creating its own data.
Yeah, but see, so there is, before ChatGPT, we have to understand the transformative network, right? What it does is, based on one line you return, it throws you the next line, right? It throws you next paragraph, it throws you entire article as well, right? So it is in a way generating out of context. Yes, you need to give context.
Yes, exactly.
You have to paint something, it will paint, right?
Yeah,
So,
but the entire painting that it is doing as of now is based on the existing data over the internet. It is not recreating the data. For example, if you tell it, give me a new invention, it has no way to figure out what is the new invention all about.
okay.
And it cannot do it, at least at this point of time.
Okay, so creation. So who agrees that it will not, I mean, who agrees that this is one of the key difference that human creates, where machine would be, so creation, what he's saying is original creation, not like machine will start creating its own image or video or text without we telling machine to do that basically. So one is the creation, certainly it's, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When there is an inference induced, we as a human also, we process a lot of data around us, what we have come across, right? So ultimately, if AI, if you really look at it, and then, the Gen AI especially, there are a lot of inferences around the existing data, and then, how the language models are, given to that, then the creation is happening. So, I mean, either the case, the creation is something completely independent of, an individual or a machine, then it is very subjective.
But what he's saying is triggering, right? At the end of the day, you are asking it to paint. Would it ask itself, you paint, or you would ask itself to write, without you telling machine, I need to write this, basically. So,
No, but there always must be a trigger for something to do, right?
I mean, there is a trigger. I mean, that's a very interesting point that you talk about, and that also, to certain extent, address the point you talk about. So, one part is the creation, but very important question that people are asking is,
I,
Yeah, yeah. Please. You have to run fast. Yeah.
It can be varied, but AI is purely dependent on data. Humans' response to any situation may not be dependent on data or whatever the image he has. That's where we make a lot of difference.
I,
Can I add to it?
Yeah, please.
What I think is when a human being takes a decision, it takes the decision not only based on the data, right? There are moral values that are there, and also there are what you call as sense, okay, and emotions attached to it, right? So that is a very critical and very particular to human beings, right? That makes a difference from animals to humans, right? The same difference is between AI and human, because AI may take a decision, right? It may create something, but that depends on the pre-existing data that is had, right? It cannot have the emotional value or the moral sense of making a decision.
So this pre-existing in the age of generative AI is a little tricky. I understand what he's saying in terms of creation, but now it is creating something without even a lot of pre-existing data available, right? So I think that argument was probably some years back.
yes, sorry. I think there are 2 points. What he's sorry. What he said for data creation, basically it is, it can find all the possibilities based on the existing data for any of the scenarios. However, it may not create what the gentleman mentioned for the emotions, such as for if we talk about AI in HRBP scenario, it may not give the touch that human can give when they talk to the employees from the AI per se. So the emotions touch, AI will not able to give at
Okay,
any point.
I'll come to emotions because that's very important topic to deal with.
Vinayak,
But,
so, in fact, based on your current topic, the digital twin era, right? A lot of people are now trying to simulate the patterns of human behavior. But, at a subconscious level, even the WHO says that the psychosomatic behavior, right? That will be very difficult for a AI to sort of, really predict. But yes, but the digital twin applications, which a lot of companies are doing, where you can even predict that, based on your human behavior pattern, you can simulate and predict your disease and all the stuff. So that has been happening, but perfection, to that will be very difficult.
yeah, but it need not have to be perfect in terms of 100%.
But probability, yeah, absolutely.
Nowadays, people are saying the age of determination has gone. It's more probabilistic in nature.
Correct.
Henceforth, all of things we have been doing is more probabilistic in
Even
nature.
if we are doing that, that will be really good for, for the future.
So,
Sir, instead of talking too much about data, I'll say one simple word: jugaad. 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 Only we can do. Means we can.
You are saying only human can do jugaad. That's interesting point. That's interesting point to add. Yeah.
Yeah. So let us take a hypothetical scenario. So let us say 7 billion population, and given a scenario, 7 billion brain, how they react. Let us say that tool, whatever you talk about, 7 billion people used at one point in time, right? Now 7 billion combinations is available with computers, and it will respond one among them. Now let us go pick up one guy among the 7 billion, give him or her the same scenario. The way in which he or she going to react is different. How does the computer will know? Will not know. So maybe we may argue saying that yes, again usage repeatedly it will come to know. But the complexity of the brain is so complex, I don't think we'll reach a stage on which human versus computer.
But now people are saying that computing power, right? I know there is a computer science function ki you may not able to understand the system, but you can observe the system and know about the system. So there is a concept of observability, right? Without even knowing the system, you can observe the system for the long duration of time, feed that and try to then say that the system behaves like this. It's more like a reverse engineering way, right? observability is now becoming as a very important computer science, and a lot of security product management is happening around this particular concept, basically. By knowing millions and billions of humans, where they behave, and capturing that over the period of the history, basically, even the emotions, knowing billions of population and their emotions for a particular situation, it may not replicate a new emotions you may have, but it may probably replicate the current emotions that most of the people have had used or reacted a particular situation, basically, right? So now one of the key things we need to understand, this is a connected learning. It will learn quite faster. But what he's talked about, definitely that's one of the important part. And that also associated with another important part is the survival. We all have survival instinct. Can AI survive itself, basically? Can it do something to survive itself, basically, right? So that's another important point people challenge it, basically, right? Can it really survive? Can it have survival instinct of human, basically? So this is another way that people challenge this concept of singularity that people are talking about, utopian AI that people are talking about. While we talk about the human has a very important instinct is survivability, basically. Any animal, any kind of biological species would have survival as one of the important thing. But what is happening? Some people now, other side, they are challenging this as well. So what is happening is we ourselves are teaching AI to do the task and make sure that the tasks are completed. So we are teaching AI, this task has to get completed. Task by task, we are asking him to do something to survive that small task. Gradually, it will start learning so many tasks needs to be done, and it will also create a survival instinct as well. So there's one school of thinking nowadays, philosophically, saying that survival is difficult. It will not have survival instinct. Other school of thinking is, because we are teaching them task by task to complete, and it will now start learning how to survive that one task, how to do something to make sure that the task is performed. Performing task is becoming so prime important, and eventually it will start surviving itself. There are a lot of the kind of fictions which has been written on this, basically. There's one movie, Eagle, which there is an AI which tried to survive itself. If anybody had seen this science fiction web series, The 100 Karke, that is on Netflix, basically. It's entirely on this. AI destroys the world, basically. Because it thinks that human is, I'll come to that later on. So survivability is one of the important case, right? So there's still some of the interesting challenges that people are now throwing and asking this question. So there is another important thing somebody talk about is, so there is something called structuralism. Structure as a way to define the world. Anybody knows what is this? This is another philosophical concept. It got challenged in latter time, but this is one of the important way to understand what is happening now. So what we started doing as a human, we started putting structure to understand things better or define things better. For example, or represent things better. For example, to express, to tell cow, if there's a cow, I say CEOW, right? This is a part of structure. I created a language structure to define, to represent, to talk about something, basically, right? And this is a part of bigger structure. And the COW has a meaning only if there is a bigger structure, and we started applying this structure. Physics is one structure, chemistry is one other structure. So many such structures that we started building, basically, right? And through that structure, and whatever is coming to us, we have started putting some kind of structure to understand things better, to map it better, so that our systematic understanding of that thing becomes easy, right? So there is very interesting discussion on this. Is like, there was a movie in India, right? Some years back, there is somebody in India in 1995 supposed to be flown aircraft, right, in Mumbai, right? So the Hawaii Jada movie also came on that particular movie. But in 1905, when this Wright brother invented the flight and they first of all take off this one, so this was based on a structure of physics, chemistry, and that in just 15 years of time, the First World War, you have all the aircraft flying in the air, basically, right? So structure helps us to understand, and structure helps us to understand science better and create something out of it which can be replicable, which can be scaled. And the role of structure to understand the world is very important, be it a science, be it a physics, be it a language. And eventually then humans started understanding, started relying on structure such a level that we are not yet started saying that we will one way understand brain with functions. We will understand where emotions are expressed. We will understand how people react. We understand how they engage, interact. And we would be able to recreate it in more systematic way. So it's called as system 2 thinking. There's a system 1 thinking is the way we think intuitively. The system 2 thinking is very deliberate, scientific, structure, connected thinking, basically. There's a book of David Goleman, Thinking Slow, Thinking Fast. So fast thinking is mostly our brain works, but say we come to a conclusion. Whereas deliberate thinking is very evolved thinking. It's very justified. So you talk about human apply a lot of those things, right? But it's very easy that machine will apply ethics much better, because machine will know in this particular situation, probably this is the best way to do it. This is the best ethical way to address this situation, basically. It may fail first, but it will not fail second time, basically. So the system 2 and system 1 thinking, the thinking fast and slow, this book is very interesting and important book, basically, right? So this book tells us, and that is why entire AI, if you have to really understand philosophical and fundamental level, this book is a very important book to read, basically. So it tells that now, eventually it will happen that whatever we have been relying on intuitive thinking, if system 2 thinking is evolving such a way, like small decisions that we have been taking, it's very easy to, now it is happening, right? We are prompting AI to get answer, right? It will be very easy for us to prompt AI and get how to react to that situation. People are doing it. While writing a paragraph by coding, people are now prompting AI rather than prompting brain, right? We are prompting AI, right? It will be possible that there are so many situations we'll rely on it, basically, right? Because it is doing much better job. It is, for example, this ethics and moral principles, way it was in December and where it is now, it has changed phenomenally. The prompt answers have now improved to such an extent, all the challenges we have about ethics, bias, and all these things, they're taking a lot of effort to improve the response to those prompts, basically. Right? So because the machine learns, and machine learns correctly, you can configure. So structure as a way to understand the world, eventually the brain structure will be able to understand, eventually will be able to replicate, eventually will be able to replicate the emotions as well. So this is structuralism as a way. It's a very ancient way of understanding this philosophy talks about, but there's very interesting limitations for that as well. One important way is brain is a chemist. I can understand from material science perspective. Brain is the computing, I can understand from the deep learning perspective. If brain is the circuitry, I can understand from circuitry perspective. So there's a lot of those kind of structures I can apply, and I can invent new structures to understand things better, basically. Am I making a very difficult proposition here? So one is structure, and other part is the competition. Believing in competition, everything can be competed. So system 2 thinking tells that everything can be factor, everything can be competed. Every other discussion, every other situation, I can compute and tell what needs to be done. I can compute and react, basically, right? So one is structure, other is competition. Another important science has, okay, there's a function. Everything can be defined in a function, and functions can be solved. So these are the ways that we had evolved entire science in last so many hundreds of years, and now we are coming to a level that probably if it is competition, if it is function, if it is structure, we can try to replicate, and that's what most of the science and technology is going for that, basically, right? But there is a little challenge here. I'm not scaring here, but there is some counter points here, right, basically, right? So there's something called the Chinese room phenomena, right? In a room, there is a kettle, and it is boiling, and there is vaporization happening, right? And this is very important, and that's why I started exploring this much better. Some of you must be knowing in the first January, I met the CEO of Microsoft in Delhi with one of our programs, and he was there, and there he talked about, well, anything is now possible, but some of the things are very difficult for AI, basically. For example, smell. We can get AI to recognize many things, but smell is not easy, right? So those subjective experience of human, and actually that triggered me to really explore this subject. I had been looking at this subject, but probably that conversation with Nadella triggered me to think about this much better, I started pursuing this. So most of the humans have subjective experiences, basically. We taste, right? We smell, right? We touch. So another counter point is, can it learn these subjective experiences? And most of the experiences are very individualistic in nature. I mean, whatever I smell, one way I see it, I may like it, you may not like it, basically, right? Whatever I touch, sometimes some people will feel differently. So this is another important argument which goes against this will not happen, because subjective experiences are very difficult to emulate and replicate, basically. But now,
machines. The humans are connected. We can say we are connected to the internet.
But I'm telling you that as I talk about the structures, computation, functionalism, so a lot of those human intelligence, so many of them can be very well. Which are those? So we are talking about which are those which is very difficult to do that.
Absolutely.
So subjective experience is one of the things which is very difficult to emulate and replicate. But people are now started putting together for sensing smell as well. Now smell sensors are coming. Can it be eventually touch it? So some of those things now people are saying it may not be replicate 100 out of 100%, basically, but most of the people, when they see the smell, how they will react. Or it will tell that this kind of people will like it, or this kind of people may not like it, basically. So such kind of, so this is one of the important arguments. It's very difficult to defeat this argument because this will subject to experiences, our own experiences, basically. So we talk about almost 3-4 things, right? Emotions I talked about, but that the trigger for creation, the subjective experience is one of the important things. Then there is another thing which I want to come on, the Chinese room phenomena, right? So there's a kettle which is boiling water. You can explain that with various ways. Molecule, that because of heat, what happens to molecule, how evaporation happens, temperature, also. You can use every other structure applicable to explain that phenomena, boiling water phenomena. Right, so this is like what it is. So somebody says that, yes, you can explain it and you can probably recreate it as well, actually. But somebody will say that water is boiling because somebody wants to have tea. Right, so the why is a human, right? Human take a particular action because he want to have tea. He want to have something, right? So this part, people are still saying it probably may not be, machine may not be able to replicate this kind of, I mean, you can understand, you can comprehend cow, but writing cow or defining cow doesn't mean that is cow, right? You can define structure of how cow can be written, how cow as animal can be described, basically, but that doesn't mean that is cow. That is what probably a key difference. I mean, one school of philosophy is challenging this. This is the difference that we as a human need to understand when we talk about this would become a conscious animal, right? Am I getting somewhere? So this is a very, these fundamental discussions are coming because now people are really asking these questions. And because some of these questions will also determine how the AI will be built in the future, basically, right? And this question, if you don't ask now, probably time would have, yes, Sunil.
Not only individualistic, but also group-wise, right? And it also changes from region to region. Now, the data that we're feeding in is only of a particular set, and system is actually reading it and then understanding, okay, this is supposed to be the model, but it may not apply to another group. So how is it going to enhance? For example, in my way, meat eating might be not an ethical issue, but for some other community, it may be an ethical issue. So how will the system differentiate this versus this, and how will it be able to understand?
Yeah, so this, thank to you brought this ethics and moral. I think somebody else also brought it, but we also need to understand, and probably there is a lot of strong argument coming from that side, is each of our action has a moral consequence, right? And in an idealistic, justified world, everybody has to take a moral responsibility of their actions, basically, right? But way we have been upbringed to this level and the situation that we go into, basically, right? We act on something, we react on something. And those small acts, small saying, small talking, the way you interact, way you engage, way you talk, the tone of you talk, basically, right? Even if it is small act, it could be, if you look at the psychology perspective, it could be an act of microaggression. Somebody might have got oppressed. Somebody might have felt marginalized because of the way you reacted, way you laughed, way you acted, basically. So, if you feed all of that to the larger, bigger problem that we talk about, machine can learn from each other this much better compared to a human. So codifying ethics and morality in machine, I'm not saying every scenario, but most of the scenario, machines will probably give better answer. And they will probably be much better compared to human because they learn from each other. It is not, I'm not talking about utopian idea. I'm talking about most of the situation.
Well,
Won't that be a problem because of uniformity, collective learning, all this would be a blocker?
This is now coming to a very interesting concept, right? There is one creative force and that creative force has created all of us. So eventually are we going to that utopian way where machine, all of them will behave same and they will look at, so there are very interesting perspective here, but now in the interest of time, yeah, because we have only 5 minutes left, yeah.
I think one more important aspect is that out of everything that is happening through human beings, maybe we can say 70% or 80% is a common fabric which can still be done by machines. So there would be some percentage which is that criticality. One of the aspects which comes to my mind is the impact. Because creating an impact out of everything context we set will also be generating a new context. For example, when it comes between taking a decision of life and death by using, let's say, AI. So to decide whether to take that action, which let's say may cause physical damage or loss of life, that is an impact assessment.
Yeah,
maybe machines
but
may
now
not.
you brought very interesting point. So I will like all of you to watch this movie, Eye in the Sky. So this is a movie about pressing that button to hit with a missile, the drone. There's a drone pilot which is operating drone and he hits that particular place in Eastern Africa. And this impact assessment is a processing so much of information in the shortest possible time and take the decision, basically. Yes, until now we are asking human to press a button, final button. But all that decision basically you're taking, and it is happening in security, right? Most of the security decision making are now mostly, we are talking about this PDP talk about, right? Is based on the AI because we know machine can understand the context much better, they can learn, and then it aids decision. Until now, we have been using that to help us with, and we finally press a button, but eventually we'll rely on it to press the button because that button has to press at a particular time. So, impact assessment, there is one school of thinking, machine will do much better job as compared to human because human's brain may not able to comprehend all that complexity in shortest possible time and compete that basically. At the end of the day, impact assessment is a competition. So there's definitely one part is we still now saying that the end button has to be pressed by human. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the very important part. Now, last point. I know this is, yeah.
Same, right? Most of the time. Because they can learn from each other very quickly. And that's the biggest beauty that we have in humans. Everybody is different. We can think differently
So now
at any situation, but machines will always think the same way.
Yeah, so I will come now to the last point. I know this is discussion of even 2 days will not be enough. But a last point, which is very important point, and I will leave it with you, right? For hypothesis, let's see, it becomes, there is an age of singularity and it becomes much better than human in terms of your consciousness as well. What it will be? If it is human, still better. If it is not, then how it will see us? It's a very important question, right? So if something like become very intelligent than us, how would it see us? Would it say a computer enemy? That's still, I believe, better. How much more intelligent, conscious species than us will see us? Huh? No, it is already superior. The assumption is already superior. How it will look it to us? Answer lies in how we look at inferior intelligent animals, right? Mosquito, we kill them because they are not useful to us. Some animals we kill to eat. So there is Homo deus that this guy talk about, but it becomes non-human thing. How would it look at is the big question that people are asking now. I leave this with you. So with this, I think we close. So we have the BPM agenda starting at 10 o'clock in one of the hall. We will be doing the master class. After that, sessions will happen. But thank you for joining. Hope it was useful. Yeah. But try to find answer to that question. How it will look to us. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you very much.